We have a chance to try to extend our season record to 12 games. And that's important for us. And that's the only thing that's really pretty much on my mind. And I think I speak for the masses when I say that. The defense is playing great. The special teams getting great field position. The offense is winning. The point of attack. We find ways to win.
You can't get to there until you take care of what's next.
I want to be number one.
Do you think you are the best?
Right now, at the time in life and where I'm playing at, yes.
Yo, what's the deal, Panther fans? Tony Dunn here in the house. It's the C3 Panthers podcast brought to you by CarolinaCatChronicles.com, where every Tuesday night at 9 p.m. we chop up the latest Panthers news and opinions. Hanging out here with my homeboys tonight, Joe Riolano in the house. How you doing, my friend?
I'm good, Tony. Very happy to be here and ready to get it on and popping.
Cody Lashney around. What's up, my man?
What's going on, boys? We don't have long. Training camp is right around the corner. That dead time of the summer is almost gone. I'm excited. I'm ready to roll. Let's wrap.
2 weeks, right? 2 weeks.
That's it, man.
We'll have some real, actual, like, footage to talk about. That's what I love about it is that we go crazy about a training camp so much is that Bill Voth is going to tweet a picture of Christian McCaffrey, like, just jogging down the sidelines. And we're going to be like, do you see the quickness in those thighs, the twitch muscle? I saw it.
And the veins popping out of his biceps.
Yeah, you're gonna. Man, there's gonna be one deflected pass, and you're gonna be like James Bradbury. Man, it's his year. I can see it. Yeah, everybody is. It's a brand new day at training camp as long as there's not an injury in the house, right?
That's how you know we're football depraved, man. Any little bit of news, bring it on. We're ready for it.
That's it.
Guys, tonight's show is Hot Takes and Hot Seats. It's episode 1824. I didn't really have anything cool to name the show after, so I just named it after a dumb take from David Newton. And I don't like to be dumb David Newton guy because I feel like there's a lot of dumb David Newton guys out there, and that's fine. I think it's warranted. But this one, man, had me going and reeling. So we're going to do a little hot taking tonight on that. Guys, you can be a participant in the show in the YouTube chat. We see a lot of people already there. Welcome, Tyler, Lynn. Welcome back, J-Dub in the house. You can also have your voice heard on the C3 podcast by calling into the Cat Calls line. The number is 252-228-5098, where you can leave a message anytime, sound off for the show. And it's always a blast. You guys take the conversation always to a great place. Guys, tonight we're really going to be talking we're going to look at just across the NFL briefly, and then we'll talk about this David Newton hot take. I will say this is, I guess the two stories that have come out today that are worthy of note is Le'Veon Bell has turned down the big contract, as well as Brandon Cooks has signed an extension on his team. He's the new guy in town, gets the deal in the house, and that leaves him, I think, all of the 2014 receivers minus Kelvin Benjamin and Odell Beckham Jr. have signed their big contract extensions. Let's look to St. Louis, guys. What does that do for the wide receiver market?
You mean Los Angeles?
Yes. Did I call him San Diego?
No, you said St. Louis.
Yeah. The Los Angeles Rams. Thank you. So what does the Brandon Cooks, were you guys, did that impress you guys that they were able, that they did this deal this quickly before he even played a snap?
Yeah, I was surprised. Yeah, I was, for that very reason. They haven't seen him take, one real snap in this offense yet. They got some in minicamp, but I mean, That's big time money. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
Cody, do you think that was like I think in some ways just a way to head off the wide receiver bump that happened in free agency? That you got to deal with Cooks or a receiver next year, so you might as well just go ahead and get it while you can get it for a decent price before he like goes off or something.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it also assures that, you have a young quarterback. Let him know that for the rest of his time there, he has a familiar option that he's going to be able to look at. And we know what Brandon is. He's fast. He makes separation. He had Drew Brees and Tom Brady that he had throwing him the ball. So, and Jared Goff is a promising young quarterback. So, I think that having someone that is going to be able to carry the load downfield with the quarterbacks like Jared, I think it's a smart move for them.
I'm just surprised at how fast it happened.
Yeah, I mean, you got those other names. You got that they signed franchise tag LaMarcus Joyner, right? And he's actually been on the team.
And they brought in what's his name from Buffalo. God, I can't think of his name. Played at Clemson.
No, he's in Kansas City now.
Oh, that's right. He got traded, right?
Yeah, Kansas City paid him a boatload of money.
They did pay him a ton.
All right, so let's turn this quickly to how this relates to the Panthers, because this is a show that we're trying to focus on that angle. And in this case, we have a wide receiver who is, Kelvin Benjamin was the guy that was on this list that was on the Panthers, and now that is a problem or it's not a question for us, and it's a question now for Buffalo. But our attention has to turn towards Devin Funchess, and that the idea right now is what do you see in Devin Funchess as a player that and how does this relate to the market and what you should do moving forward with him? And my kind of take on this is, number one, is that Devin Funchess, we may have had too high hopes for him early, but now that you have taken some of that burden away from him in some ways and replacing some of those expectations now on a number one wide receiver in DJ Moore, that now Devin Funchess, you can look at him as more of a number two wide receiver or the possession guy on the field. You kind of know his role a little bit more, but he is very young, and he does have the kind of tools. He's got a build that as he grows more and more into his man body, that will only get better, you would think. He's shown some poise, right? And the ability to deal with some of the responsibility in that offense. I think right now that you should start thinking about Devin Funchess and how can you get him as he kind of moves into the golden part of his career, that second phase, and he's like 23 years old too, that you reap those benefits instead of cultivating that player and then him going somewhere else and being very good. So how do you do that? Do you do that? I mean, and Marty Herney, how can he do that in the spot that they're at? And Cody, I'll let you start with it.
So, and I feel we've sort of said this before on the show. This is a big year for Devin, man. I feel he has a lot to prove, and if we do end up trying to sign him before maybe even before the year starts, which I don't know if you can still do that right now. I think it was just a franchise tag that they had to sign right now, but. Right. Yeah, so I remember Josh Norman, David Gettleman did try and sign him before 2015, and Josh Norman said, nah, man, you know what? I'm going to bet on myself. I'm going to ball out this year, and I'm going to earn even more money next year. So it depends. I mean, does Devin think that, this year with DJ Moore there and Curtis Samuel, he wants to show these dudes, hey, man, listen, I'm the number one around these parts down here, man. Let me show you what a true number one is capable of. If he bets on himself, it might pay off for him. But I don't know. It is a very important year for Devin. I like him as a player. I don't necessarily feel that as of right now he's proven that he can be that number one. And I think that's what we're looking for more than anything. The number two position is a lot easier to fill than that true number one guy.
But isn't it nice to have a number two who's really that was kind of an almost number one?
Oh, absolutely.
And that is where I kind of think is if you can catch. Do you think Devin would be open, should you say, to taking a deal sooner rather than later, in that, hey, we appreciate what you've done. You were young. You've come in here. You've shown a lot. And we want you to be a part of us going forward. Not a reduced rate, but kind of a friendly contract, if you know what I'm saying. Do you think he would be open? Do you think, would that be something that you would be interested in? Or because he is so young, Joey, do you think he kind of leans towards what Cody is? And I think is showing could be a real factor, is that could be the first of one or two paydays ahead.
I think it depends. If you're trying to pay him team friendly number two receiver money, I don't think he'll go for it.
So you don't think he would do something to the effect of, like, say, $9 million a year? Because right now, I think Sammy and them are making upwards of like 14.
14, yeah.
It's so hard to know.
Yeah,
what's in their mindset,
Right.
$9 million sounds good to me and you.
Right.
But, of course. Does he think he is like an $11 or $12 million a year guy?
Right, which is like a 25% raise. Lynn in the chat room says that she agrees that Funchess is feeling good about himself at this moment. And I think that's a good point too, is that if you're healthy, if you're Devin Funchess and you're healthy and you're going into this year, you are kind of becoming the veteran of the group, and you're still 23 years old. And the team is going to put a lot on you this year, even despite them getting a number one selection or a first round selection in DJ Moore.
Yeah, and also I sound like a broken record sometimes. I feel like I repeat myself, but really the only receiver on this team right now who has a real connection with Cam and the way that he plays, other than Greg Olsen, is Devin Funchess, And I mean, so if you think about it, it does sort of bode well for him to say, you know what, I'm going to hold out a little bit. I'm going to wait until the end of this next season. I'm going to bet on myself. I'm in a good position. There are no other real big body receivers on the team right now. Devin Funchess is that contested catch receiver that's on the team right now, other than Greg, So in my mind, it might not be a bad idea just for Devin to bet on himself.
I think you guys are right.
Yeah,
I'm agreeing. You guys have convinced me fully.
Yeah, as Joey said, of course, we would love to sign him for $8 or $9 million, but yeah, I'm sure that's not what Devin wants. Everyone wants to be the man.
Yeah, I think he definitely would want more money than that.
I do think, though, if I was in one way you could look at it, if you're Funchess, is even though you guys have convinced me, I'll give one last kind of point to it, and that is, what if you could go ahead and get a respectable deal, but you keep it from being too long, right? You say, I want, 4-year deal. And you kind of half bet on yourself. You bet on yourself, but you go ahead and set it up so that really, if you're talking about being 26, 27, kind of that, like, you could be a star age, right? I mean, when are the guys the best at that position? I think it's somewhere between 25 and 28.
Yeah, and keep in mind the Falcons' first-round draft pick, Calvin Ridley. I do believe that him and Devin Funchess are the same age.
Yeah.
Which is sort of weird to me, but I mean, he's nowhere near washed up. He's still young. He might not even be in his prime yet, man. We might not have seen the best Devin Funchess. Yeah, I think that's what we're all hoping for, too.
Right, and so I like to, and I've mentioned this a lot in the history of the show, is the idea of how many contracts can I get.
Yeah,
would be something that I would be interested in. You don't want to, like, say, and I think that's what we've seen it to the benefit of a Kirk Cousins guy, and even though he didn't do it necessarily by choice, fully, is that he's had multiple deals, and each time you go to that new job, you get a bump based on experience. Mm-hmm. And so if you could get, say, 4 contracts in a football career rather than 2 big ones, you could take advantage of that inflation that happens. So, maybe Devin Funchess, if he's being so young, gives him such a good opportunity potentially to be a guy who can sign a deal when he's 28 years old and he's still playing football hard and maybe at his prime level, and that's like 5 years from now. Which is crazy. Another issue to think about, guys, or the other news bit, is the Le'Veon Bell contract negotiations. Again, every year, at least it's not Kirk Cousins again. Yeah, Kirk Cousins, I feel like it was just like every year we tee up this same discussion. Well, that is what's happened. Le'Veon Bell, once again, they tried to sound like they were nicer to each other this year than last year, but it doesn't look like that's the case. Le'Veon Bell announced he's not going to be a Pittsburgh Steeler basically in the future, right?
Well, I would say my agent, I think, said that.
And he turned down what sounds like a big deal on the face of it, and you never know. You never know when they're reporting it, right?
5 years. I think it was $80 million, but a guaranteed $33 million. I think that's what it was. And he said no.
So Le'Veon is, the best at his position in the NFL and arguably a top 5 player in the NFL. And he can't reach, and the Pittsburgh Steelers and him have yet to been able to agree upon the value of what he means to the organization is in kind of in football in general. Cody, what are your kind of thoughts on Le'Veon?
Well, you and I were talking a little bit before the show just about the overall valuation of the running back position and how if you look at it as a defensive player, normally around 26 to 27, they're in their prime, man. I mean, Von Miller, Khalil Mack, even J.J. Watt, who's had a lot of injuries, they're ready to go right now. They might have the best in front of them. Whereas a running back, they take so much wear and tear early on in their careers that, man, they're seen as used up by the time they're 24 years old because of the amount of punishment that they take. So there's hesitancy from all these organizations to pay them these big money contracts when they don't know how long they're going to have them for. I mean, personally, I think Bell is the best in the game right now. He's good for about 1,300 yards every season, about 80-plus catches every year. That's like high-end wide receiver numbers, I mean, that's. I mean, there are a lot of good.
Sammy's getting paid 14 for that. For less than that, for a lot less than that.
Yeah.
There you go, man. I mean, it's such a weapon. And by the way, we all know this, and especially considering Cam Newton, when you do not have a run game, you don't have an offense. I mean, if you're not running the ball, you don't throw the ball effectively. So when you have someone like Le'Veon, that's one of the few, in my mind, exceptions to the rule. I say pay the man. I mean, don't hurt your own cap if it comes down to it. But Le'Veon Bell, it's hard to think of someone more worth the money at the position than him.
Well, it's not like they didn't offer him a deal, though.
Right.
Right. So
kudos to the Steelers organization for sticking to their guns and not being willing to amend their team policy of setting the market on players. Kudos to them for sticking to their guns.
Well, yeah, I mean, I guess that's cool in the theory of their team, but it's not like, Le'Veon's case is not unjustified.
Right, and I don't think he's asking for too much. I don't think that, but the Steelers know where their market is. And
it's kind of it's kind of strange. The one thing that's different about Le'Veon is that he's not just kind of the best at his position, is that he happens to be the best at his position, but better than everybody else too in the like 95% of the NFL. And he's not like just a really good running back. He's not just the number one running back. He is. He's more. It's kind of like saying that Aaron Rodgers is the best. He's more than just a good quarterback. It's something more to your organization. It feels like. But the thing though that you brought up, Cody, is that with running backs, they have this other thing that is that they could be the number one player in the league, and then 2 days later, they can be old.
They're out of the league. Yeah.
Yeah. I think of one person that comes to me mind is Sean Alexander.
Yeah.
Is that this guy was like by far one of the top 5 players in the NFL for about 3 years, and then he just gone.
Fell off the face of the earth. Yeah.
Gone. But how does this? It's kind of unfortunate for running backs and unfortunate for Le'Veon, and you just got to wonder, how do you manage these factors? But being young is actually an asset to a running back more than other positions, and that is that the skill set. It's not an overly complicated, position. It's not like you're going to, as you age, you become a fine wine. The skills that are good or the best for you are for young kids, which is like quick decision making without overthinking it. Like, shifty quickness, like things that you don't hear of running backs becoming the old savvy running back that just knows the position so well he can be productive. It's just you don't hear that.
Yeah, and
it just actually doesn't become a help to be old. It's not like being Mike Adams. You can't play the position based on your smarts or your understanding. It is, as Lynn says, instinctive.
And I think Brandon Herbert, in the chat, makes a great point. I mean, they were going to make him the highest paid running back in the NFL by a few million, so it's not like you made the point, Tony. It's not like they weren't going to pay the man, but it's just, he felt like he was worth a lot more. And honestly, man, that might bite him. I mean, y'all remember Adrian Peterson? Now, granted, he was a little bit older, but after the Vikings let him go, he was assuming that he was going to have a ton of takers for a Hall of Fame running back, and he just never, ever got the kind of money that he wanted to, So, I mean,
it was an opportunity. He never did get an opportunity anywhere he went.
Yeah, I mean, he played.
But he was washed up by that point.
Yeah,
and he also wasn't as versatile as Le'Veon. He was just a downhill thumper, whereas Le'Veon, he'll pretty much do whatever you want, So it is different in that circumstance. But I think that if he plays one more year and then asks for the same type of money somewhere else, he's probably not going to get the kind of money that he wants.
It comes back to the amount of deals you can get. So this is what we're talking about is how the running back position in many ways has changed, and to an extent of like how it fits into the game. And as for this is a position that in many ways it's like owning, if Cam Newton is a brick house, right, on a nice piece of property, in many ways a running back is like one of those prefab homes that you see on the side of the road, and it's like it looks like a nice house, but they don't grow in value as their career goes. Those homes actually diminish in value, right? Because they're not stick built real homes. The running back is a position that is similar to that, is that as every year in a sense that from the point that you're very good, you're actually declining. And maybe there is a slight incline. You can see a slight arc. But by the time it comes to contract time, you know, that is most people are on the backside of it. So this really, I think, goes back to maybe a question is that because you heard Ty Gurley mention that, you know, I think where people get upset is because they see the basketball contracts and you're like, I'm Le'Veon Bell. And this fifth player that don't even play makes twice as much money as me in the NBA. So this, I think, is really a CBA question at the heart of it. I know that Le'Veon is kind of an odd example and one that comes with his own intricacies and things. But how can you maybe potentially approach the CBA with the running back position in mind as you see these quarterbacks commanding this astronomical amount of money, wide receivers inflated in value, but real stars of the game like a Ty Gurley and these guys not being able to. So how do we remedy that in the actual frame rules that maybe you can at least slow that process down?
Joe, you want to take it?
I don't know that you can. And I say that because
it's going to suck when Devin Funchess makes more money than Le'Veon Bell.
Right. I understand what you're saying. The only way to do it is to give the running backs a bigger guaranteed number. But how can you write that into a CBA? You know what I'm saying? You really can't. I think the problem with
can you shorten the time of the rookie deals, maybe?
I guess that's possible, yeah.
Does that help?
Here's what I'm saying. Look, back in the day, the Steelers won the Super Bowl with Willie Parker at running back, okay? Who was a nobody. The Patriots, they win the Super Bowl all the time with just average running backs.
Yep.
Okay, so that therein is the problem. You can get by with just an okay running back. I mean, look, the Panthers, look how successful they were last year, and they didn't have a great running back, right? A barely serviceable one in Stewart.
Yeah, but we weren't. Well, but also part of the heart of many of our issues, or not the heart, a big part of our inability to get over the hump.
Right. But my point is, you can have some level of success without a Le'Veon Bell back there. And I think that's where the problem is. That's where the problem lies.
So how do you toss him what I'm saying is you don't have to now. And this is a point I wanted to get to. So I'm going to steal Cody's shine, and I'm going to at least make this point and tell you what is the point that you made related to the Carolina Panthers about approaching the CBA, Cody, in relationship to discussion before we were talking.
Yeah, so one of the I don't remember where I read it at, but I remember reading somewhere that knowing that the CBA was down the road, they wanted somebody like David Tepper to be at the owner's table because he has so much experience evaluating and making deals and doing these kinds of things, you know, and it's someone that's worth $11 billion. And if you look at the types of investments and the bets that he made, you know, when the stock market crashed, the guy knows what he's doing. And when he's evaluating players, you know, I guess they're betting that he will have an eye on, you know, making the right kind of deals that will maybe entice players and owners at the same time. I mean, in his press conference, he was talking about making deals that are beneficial for both Charlotte and the owner in reference to a new stadium. It just seems like somebody like David Tepper is somebody like that the NFL feels that could actually go a long way in 2 years when the CBA is up to be redone.
Big Chief TP in the chat room says rookie deals are really a screw job for running backs.
Yeah.
And this is where I think, so if I'm the NFL and if I'm David Tepper, and you heard his comments about how he thinks about how a city should and the organization should have a partnership when it comes to facilities and stadiums and things like that.
Right.
Is that I think that if you could, at least if I'm the owners and I put on my greedy owner hat, I try to play the long game on this rather than winning a CBA that wins me a 5-year great deal and makes the players unhappy. You know, how can you come to the table if you're the owners with a deal that maybe takes into account some of these things, that has a kind of pro, at least on the outside, has a pro player flavor to it? So instead of coming to the CBA with your hardest negotiating cap, you toss them a little something to start that addresses some of these issues, because I think that the players is that you're going to continue to see this, is that I know Le'Veon is the anomaly, but if you think of, as if you see a guy like who's the guy from Dallas, Ezekiel Elliott, you know, I mean, by the end of his rookie deal, he could be out of the NFL. I mean, not out of the NFL, but like done. Like,
he's
I mean,
also an idiot too. Makes a lot of stupid decisions.
Well, you're true. So how maybe it comes to something like some ways that those basically that the rookie players don't break the bank like they were in the past, but pathways to contract negotiations can happen quicker. You know.
Yeah, and if I could sort of piggyback on what Big Chief said in the chat, about how the CBA screws over the running backs. Did you know that right now, without having ever played it down, Saquon Barkley is one of the highest paid running backs in the NFL because he was drafted number 2. So because he was, that's insane. Because he was drafted so high, that number 2 pick in the draft, he is one of the richest running backs in the NFL already. And that's insanity, you know?
It is, but in many ways, maybe it's those types. How can you continue to that's a good thing for Saquon, and it's probably a good. Is that what you really almost have, like a running back bonus that rolls in after year 2 or something? Like, thanks for being the cannon fodder of the NFL. Here's your longevity bonus at 2 years. I don't know. I mean, I feel for those guys because they are so expendable in many ways. And what you ask them to do is really sacrifice their bodies. Yeah. It's just like, hey, run smack at those dudes as hard as you can. Everybody else is attacking people. And it's just, you're over there running. You're the dumbass running into the brick wall over and over and over.
Yeah.
You're like, why are you running into that brick wall, dude? You should have played wide receiver.
Wide receiver or quarterback.
Let's move quickly to the Panthers topics. Right now, the only thing I have that I care to talk about that I thought was worthy to talk about, which stinks, is David Newton, ESPN beat writer for the Carolina Panthers, writes this. ESPN is struggling in the blog world at this time of year, just like everybody else is. So it's not like they're whack and as like everybody makes them out to be, but they're like doing lists, like 3 things that could be this is the NFC chimes in. And this was hot seat. Who's on the hot seat in the NFC South? Mm-hmm. And somehow the beat reporter for the Carolina Panthers selects, out of all the people, they don't just have to select somebody from their team.
Right.
They can pick people from other teams. He picks Cam Newton as the one that's on the hot seat. So I try to not be on the I'm not David Newton sucks end it, because I feel like people on Twitter are like, go kill yourself. They say things to that effect. Like, I'm like, gosh, I mean, they'll be like, turn in your credentials.
Yeah.
Like, damn, man, poor guy's over there on Prozac or something. But this one, I think I may have just joined them officially.
He's so bad.
This is really bad. What does this even mean? How can you, did you laugh at yourself when you type Cam Newton? Now, am I being so weird because my friends they make fun of me for being like Mama Bear of Cam Newton, the biggest Mama Bear. But why, out of all the people, would Cam Newton be the name that was selected?
I'll let Joey go first because I hate David Newton more than you.
I can only think he was trying to get a rise out of us because there are so many more realistic candidates. He could have made it an all Tampa Bay thing and put Cutter.
He did say Cutter was his second choice.
Right.
It was a close.
Winston. That would have made sense at least, right? I don't know.
I mean, a guy that has yet to prove it and also in trouble.
Get in trouble every year. Every year he's getting in trouble. So,
what about Matt Khalil?
Okay, I could have been fine with that. Yeah.
You know, I mean, if you want to pick something that's a little, you know, let's take a, you know, throw a little salt into to get the clicks going. Right. You know, is that something that is on the hot seat? Ron Rivera, you could be like new owner. You could take the new owner angle, you know, and maybe say, but that new GM. You could say Julio Jones in Atlanta just because they afford him, you know, not so. I mean, I don't know. You could do something, but Cam Newton, like, to me, the only hot seat he's on is the one that ends up on him getting a contract extension this year, or as soon as a new GM comes in and says, you know what, let's just go ahead and work this deal out before you turn into a $500 million guaranteed contract.
Yeah.
There were
5 years from now.
There were a million better answers than Cam Newton, but that's David Newton for you. This is the man who misspells names of players that are on the team, by the way, who has used his own personal Twitter account and liked porn tweets from his ESPN official Twitter account.
I don't see any problems here so far.
Joey, if I'm lying, I'm dying. David Newton used his own Twitter account and was liking porn sites on Twitter, and for everyone to see, man.
You didn't realize that when you hit like, other people see it.
Listen, the funniest video you can look at online right now. So for those of you who don't know, David Newton also covers NASCAR, and he was at a NASCAR press conference. And he asked Tony Stewart some question, and Tony Stewart was like, I should expect such a dumb question from you, David. Like, dude, Tony Stewart just looks at him like,
I wish I would have hit you with the car. Isn't he the guy that like killed somebody or really hurt somebody?
Yeah, he did. But David Newton, and like, here's another person that he'll ask stuff to Ron Rivera and the players that pisses him off. And the fact that he works for ESPN, the largest sports network out there that there is, it drives me up.
That's how they can afford these other big names that they land. When you hear about them trying to pay John Gruden like $1 billion to do Monday, you're like, how can they afford that? When all you hear is ESPN firing everybody. They fired all the good writers and kept all the bloggers. They could hire me.
And also,
and I would be like, nah, man, I'm good.
the fact that he watches all the Panthers games and he knows all the things that are blatantly obvious to us, that Cam doesn't really have a lot of help. Cam hasn't had the best play callers. You know, Cam has been a one-man show. And his answer is still Cam Newton. Like, if you're not good at your job, you don't deserve to have it. And that's my opinion, man. I don't think that he should even have his job.
Shots fired. I was thinking about when you said that he liked the porn tweets. There was a politician that wasn't it like Ted Cruz or something?
Ted Cruz.
Like Ted Cruz, and then he said like an intern did it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
you know, which it probably was, but at the same time, like, nah, we just gotta. I want to live in a world where it was Ted Cruz that did it.
Oh no,
That's the world I want to live in.
In my world, he did do it.
I think that, yeah, exactly. That's exactly right. I was
saying, otherwise either.
For me, I've always thinking about this when I'm on Twitter is that you'll see these tweets from people that you're friends with that are big Panther fans, you know, or at least, you know, in that, you know, it seems, and they're on the edge from women. And you're like, I can't like this not because I don't want to like it, but because this is too far. Like people be on, you know, I mean, like, and so I'm thinking about that with a silly blog, you know, podcast, and these guys, you know, their career. So funny stuff. I thought that, I mean, I don't even know where that comes from. He tried to say, like, I could have picked Cutter. I could have picked the coaching staffs get fired first. But I'm just thinking here is that, again, it comes back to like Cam Newton is the easy guy to talk about at this time of year. Nobody says this mess in October.
No.
Never.
And I know I'm already sounding so mean. And you were saying that Panthers Twitter wants him dead. You know, it's not that far from me. But listen, when you listen to an interview with David Newton, he doesn't sound like that smart of a man, dude. He cannot pronounce. Listen, he can't pronounce names right. He's always misspelling names in his articles. Like, he just doesn't seem good at his job, and yet he has it. Like, there were a million other people to pick, and he just decided to go for the clickbait.
It's dumb. It's so dumb. And I know that we shouldn't even talk about it, but the reason I want to talk about it is because I actually heard I'm on a local radio show on Pirate Radio 1250 on Fridays with my buddy Clip Brock, and he had a guy, and he'll bring in all these, you know, other people throughout the week, and one of them was a local sports TV broadcaster, and he said something to the effect of, if Cam Newton has another down year this year, that you got to start wondering, like, how long is Cam Newton project gonna? Now, he didn't use the word project. He wasn't saying it was like failed to that much, but like, is this truly gonna work out in the long term? And Clip played it for me, and I just like had to go off. And really, I mean, like, I was like physically getting upset. To me, the whole thing that always comes back to is like whether or not Cam Newton is or isn't what you want him to be, right? Or what you envision him to be. You know what I mean? Is that like whether he's a 90% passer or a 50% passer? Like, I mean, it's like you envision him a way or not. Is that it doesn't even matter if he lives or doesn't live up to those expectations. Like, who in the league at quarterback would you trade straight up for him? Just straight up and say, you know what, is that it's time to go a different direction. And even if you had, but I mean, obviously you got to take off Tom Brady, you got to take off Drew Brees, you got to take off Aaron Rodgers. It's not like he's replaceable.
I wouldn't trade
him all.
I wouldn't trade him for any of them either.
Well, but yeah, I mean, because they're old. I mean, I know that too. But like 10 years ago, I mean, like those are the only arguments to be made ultimately is that. But I mean, there isn't even if he doesn't live up to your expectation of Cam, he's still better than 99%, like 98% of quarterbacks in the league, I think, or well, I won't say that much, but 90%, 85%.
Easily better.
I think he's a top. I mean, I'm going to argue a top 5 quarterback. I will accept a top 7, top 8, and I won't take anything outside of top 10 from like the biggest hater.
This is what people don't like about Cam is that he'll, you know, run for 60 yards and then celebrate, and then he might throw an interception. And then the next good thing that he does is celebrating all over again. You know, he does not fit the mold of a quarterback. He kind of has a wide receiver mentality. He's flashy. He wears the outfits. He's a showboat, man. But like, we love that because yeah, he isn't Drew Brees. He isn't Tom Brady. You know, there's so much fun to be had when watching Cam Newton. That yeah, I mean, you can watch Aaron Rodgers and Drew Brees throw the ball for 1,000,000 yards, and Cam can do that too. But it's a different kind of experience when you're watching Cam Newton play football.
Big Chief TP says another down year ? Panthers would have been 6-10 without his down year, and that is a large point of what I made. What I said on the radio, and it's not. I don't want to just be like this. Is like imagine what the Panthers would be without Cam Newton. Without this, is my point is that really is that Cam Newton may not be meeting these marks that you need him to meet in your brain for him to be maybe one of those marks is being white. Right? I don't know, but I'm just saying this is that it doesn't matter, right? What is that? If he had a 62% passer rate, you'll see things like this is that, he relies on play action. I saw this, and this wasn't about Cam Newton. This was about quarterbacks. Is like a quarterback who has success because of play action. It wasn't because of them. It was like play action success was like, well, Peyton Manning didn't do play action. You know, like he was I mean, it's just kind of like this is that nothing's ever going to satisfy everybody. I get that. But to me is that with Cam Newton right now, and you don't see in the foreseeable future this going down. He's kind of like the Le'Veon, but he also plays quarterback. You know, it's the most valuable position, and he's the most valuable player.
If the song remains the same, man. Without Cam Newton, we don't have an offense. We don't have any run game. We definitely don't have a passing game because Derek Anderson wasn't about to take the load off.
Derek Anderson, we would have gotten like 82 yards a game. Total offense with Derek Anderson last year.
Cam Newton, in my mind, is one of those players in the NFL that does not get the credit. So, I mean, it's really not fair to compare him to Le'Veon because they also have Antonio Brown and Ben Roethlisberger, now Juju Smith-Schuster. They have other weapons. Cam Newton is the weapon until someone else proves otherwise.
What I love about Cam Newton is no matter who you put on the team, you could put Julio on the team. You put anybody on the team, and guess who's still the best on the field? Yeah, I mean, it's like this. Is you put Le'Veon on the Carolina Panthers, and you know you would still be like, you'd be like, Cam Newton's still our best player, best weapon. No you know what I'm saying? It doesn't matter who it is. And I think that's hard to quantify, though, in this kind of discussion that they have many times. But I think, Joe, any other Panther topics you want to talk about before we jump into the cat calls?
No, I don't think
you mentioned Christian McCaffrey to me earlier.
Yeah, that's right. I mentioned Christian McCaffrey, and what are the chances of him running for 1,000 yards, you think? You think it's almost a virtual impossibility?
Yeah. I would say it's unnecessary.
No. Is he capable of doing it? Knowing that you only...
I don't think he's going to get enough touches in just running back touches to really make it.
You only have to average 63 yards per game to get 1,000 yards.
I think he'd have to bust like a 20-yard runoff every game to hit that number.
I think, can he? Yes, I definitely do. Will he? I don't think he will. Just because, one, we have Cam Newton, and Cam he wants to be the lion that roars. He said so himself. Now we have C.J. Anderson, and we just had the Broncos guy on the show telling us that he's a very undervalued player and he's going to get some touches. I definitely think that he can do it. I think the sky is the limit for Christian.
I think what we got to just do is what you probably would say is that where can his all-purpose yards, or at least his offensive, as in receiving and rushing yards, can he eclipse, say, if he eclipsed 1,400 yards total? I think that would be. I mean, if you got 700 and 700, that's like probably 50 yards a game, and 50 yards receiving. I think he could easily do that.
I'm asking because she was the 8th overall pick, and you want to see where you're getting your value from, and if he has 5 consecutive 1,000-yard seasons, you can say, "Oh wow, that was a great pick," but you see him average 600 yards a season, and you gotta wonder. But I mean,
Christian McCaffrey debate lives on. 1 year later, the same story. It's the same exact question before last season, after last season, and going into this season. The only thing that ends this question is like him getting hurt. Like, even if he has like a great season, you'll be like, well, is this like, was it good enough here? Was it good enough here? Can he do that? I mean, so the Christian McCaffrey debate will live on, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Super Bowl. If we win the Super Bowl, it won't matter.
No, it won't matter at all.
Yeah. Is that, and you're going to need Fournette to, after his career to be over in like 4 years, just because they ran the tires off of him. And
J-Dub says, he's a 700 rusher and a 1K receiver. And we were talking about, the amount of money that a running back gets paid compared to receivers. Maybe if I'm Christian, maybe I say, you know what? I am a little better at running routes and catching passes than I am barreling up the middle. That might benefit.
Yeah, maybe you should start looking at me more like the dude that just got Wes Welker.
Yeah, Wes Welker, Julian Edelman.
Exactly.
Cue the white receiver.
Yeah, exactly. The list of Shifty. Not the fastest guy, but Shifty.
He's a weapon.
I think the Panthers, when it's time for a contract, want to pay him as a running back and not a receiver.
Heck yeah, you would. Like, you would list him in his contract year, you would almost change his number to RB. Like, what numbers look the most like an R and a B? I actually heard a guy patented in, I think this was like in the 50s, a system when the NFL was starting to become maybe it was starting to become more of a followed sport. He patented, and it's like he officially submitted it to the U.S. Patent Office, a numbering system that helped you understand the position that they played better. So it would be like R1, R2, and so that you knew that was a running back or defense, and it was a letter and a number. I would be like, your number is R, and J-Dub says 48's kind of close to RB. That's right. Yeah, I'm changing my number this year to RB. All right, so guys, we're going to jump into the cat calls tonight. This is the part of the show where you guys get to take over the discussion. And the number is 252-228-5098. And you can leave a message any time of the day, any day of the week.
Now, while we're going over them, call. If you have them, call in.
So here we go. Let's jump into this.
What are your thoughts on catcalling?
Yeah, it's pretty. You shouldn't do that to somebody.
And how did that make you?
Hey, how y'all doing? This is G. Cavassier. Loved the show last week. That was a very corners. You guys did thumbs up last week. Okay, the reason why I'm calling tonight is, we have to discuss this. The big elephant in the damn room. Okay. And I believe Mel brought this up a couple of weeks ago, and I don't know if anybody caught up on it, but I did. My thing is this, with North Turner being the offensive
coordinator, how will our fullback, Alex Arma, be used? Now, you look back in the history,
Good question.
when Norv Turner was the head coach for the San Diego Chargers back in 2007, he had Lorenzo Neal.
Awesome.
You remember that fullback? That dude was like a damn bowling ball.
Yeah, he looked like a fullback. He had that big neck thing.
I think he was 2007, I believe. I think after that he went to the Ravens, I want to say. And even before that, if you think about it, when Norv Turner was offensive coordinator for the Dallas Cowboys back in the 90s, fullback was Daryl Johnson. He was a pretty good fullback because, he led the way for Emmitt Smith.
Yeah.
My thing is, what can he do with Alex Arma? Because he can use a fullback pretty good. I mean, because LaDainian Thompson had good running stats in San Diego that year in 2007 before Neal left, and Daryl Johnson, he paved the way for Emmitt Smith. He pass blocked and opened up holes and everything like that. So what do you guys take on that? Because to me, that's a big elephant in the room. I believe that, the new additions to the running back, the big guy from Denver, I think we're going to be okay. So you guys just give me your opinion on that, and never forget to keep pounding.
All right, great call right there. So Alex Arma right there, and I think that's also related. Alex Arma being the fullback potentially that we could use, but that's also related to another position in many ways that these guys you kind of find ways to mix and match. And that is Chris Manhertz out to start the year on the PUP list. Now he plays tight end. That's going to put more pressure on some of the rookies. You're going to need Greg Olson to step up. But then how do you kind of manage the fullback position on a roster where there are some concerns at the tight end position? Now, Alex Arma, fortunately, he does seem like a versatile tool that's not just limited only to being a fullback only, but that's where you see him now. Panthers would have Christian McCaffrey, Cam Newton, and CJ Anderson. How do you put a fullback out there and not tip your hand entirely? I watched some San Diego Chargers footage a little later, 2011. Yeah, Mike Tolbert trying to play that role, but again, you know what? Is they didn't use him as a fullback; they just used him as a running back.
Yeah.
So how do you guys see Alex Arma? A lot of love in the chat room about Alex Arma and the need for him in this offense. How do you see that panning out under Norv Turner, as G. Cavassier said?
Do you want to go first, Joey?
I think I think you said it, Tony. You're going to have to find a way to incorporate him in the game without letting everybody know you're running the ball. And the only way to do that is to play him a lot. Bring him in.
Right. That's a good point. Not only on play action, right?
Right. You gotta
on action.
Right. You gotta play him a lot. And you gotta switch out your running backs. Your halfbacks have to be the ones that come in and out. Or else you are tipping your hand. So, I mean, unless, Norv has some other brilliant scheme worked up, I think that's the only way.
Well, what and is that really that's not necessarily a problem either. Think about this: is that if you put in CJ on first down with Alex Arma, you put in CJ on second down with Alex Arma, and then you take CJ out on third down, you move Christian McCaffrey to the back position with Alex Arma.
Right, the halfback, and then Arma fullback, right?
Yeah, and then now you also put Christian McCaffrey out in the slot on a first and second down, so you're not losing him,
right?
And on first and second down, is that you don't really know how you're going to use. It's not like you're just putting Alex Arma in there when Christian McCaffrey's in there because he could use some help, but it could help Christian McCaffrey's game. In many ways to run behind an extra blocker.
I think he was used to a fullback at Stanford. I think he ran behind a fullback, didn't he?
That's what I was about to say. The most important tape that you can watch of Christian McCaffrey is all of his time at Stanford, where he was a Heisman consideration, running behind a fullback. Listen, it's a great question because we know Christian isn't going to run you over. He's not big enough to do that. That's not what he does. But if he has a little bit of space, he will take that and just gut you with it. And that's what we know about Christian. So in my mind, it's funny that Joey brought up Christian right before this question. The best way, in my opinion, to utilize Christian McCaffrey is with a fullback in front of him. And by the way, we drafted Alex Arma expressly to play fullback. He had played defensive end. He played tight end. He played a bunch of other different positions.
Right.
But we drafted him to play a fullback. And you're right, though. We haven't had a fullback in our system because Mike Tolbert, regardless of what he was listed as,
never in his entire career. Yeah. And you know what is that Mike Tolbert was bad in San Diego in short yardage. Mike Tolbert's best it was when he got in some space. And I know that sounds strange for a big boy, but when he could get in some space and get a rumbling, it was like a locomotive. It took a little while. So now, this is a tough question right here in the YouTube chat. This is why we should probably just open with the cat calls because they lead down this road. Big Chief TP says this. How does the fullback use change with the helmet rule, though?
Yeah, that helmet rule is a weird one, man.
I don't know enough about the wording and how they're going to like the kind of temperature that they want to institute this rule, because I think there is kind of some marching orders that the NFL will give the referees, and that is, here are the rules. This is what we want to focus on, these types of things. But, are they going to be our offensive people? Is that as much of is a big deal for a running back to put your head down? It's almost like a defensive measure as a running back, almost, I feel like, but maybe not. So that would be tough. That's tough to answer. But I think that one of the things about incorporating where G. Cavasier's question with this fullback probably is just it may be the thing to watch in some ways, is that you could use Christian McCaffrey on first down if he had a fullback. You're not limited. You don't want to just limit Christian McCaffrey to a third down back. That's what I'm saying. That's my point. And he's not.
Right. That'd be a waste.
He's not, but putting him over CJ without a fullback is like, I don't think that's an answer either.
Well, and in my opinion, that's how you are going to utilize him the best. Have CJ in there when you just want, 4 yards, 3 or 4 yards. And then imagine this scenario. Cam snaps the ball, Arma barrels through to make a hole. What's he going to do? Is he going to give it to Christian? Or is he going to bootleg out to the side and throw a pass to Greg Olsen or Ian Thomas? It opens up your playbook when you have a fullback. And that's why, even though he technically wasn't a fullback, we have utilized that position for a while, or even in theory, because it does provide you more options. And North Turner is great at utilizing those options. I think Alex Arma needs to be a real piece of our offense.
And, you go back and you look at all the things when North Turner, the success that he's had and the style he wants to do things, that vertical passing game, the deep shot. But really, so much of that offense is predicated on being able to effectively run the ball. And his offense is best when they can do that. You go back and you look at how some of these quarterbacks, what these timing routes are benefited when you can take advantage of situations where you get one-on-one and some different things like that. And you can't get that in a wide receiving game if you don't if the run game isn't effective. It's not about respecting the run game. It's about the run game actually being effective. And that sets things up. So I like that. Be a great point to watch as we continue on. Let's keep going, guys.
Hey guys, this is William Taylor, aka Waldo.
What's up, Waldo? I love AKAs.
Love you guys. I think the podcast is awesome. I wanted to start out. Today's Monday, the 16th. It's Barry Sanders' 50th birthday. So happy birthday to him. Also, Shaq Thompson announced his engagement today, so congrats to him.
Yeah, man.
Couple things to bring up to you guys. I saw ESPN ranked our offensive weapons at 17th. Not sure if I got like a little homer bias on this, but I kind of feel like that's way off. They had the Bucks at 15 with no running game. They had the Titans at 14, and like their number one receivers like Rashard Matthews. So I don't even think he's like a legit 2 on most teams. They had the Browns at 13.
Oh, yeah.
The Texans at 12. It's like outside of DeAndre Hopkins, I don't really see them having anybody. They got the Bears and that offense that hasn't been great at 9. They got the Pats after losing some weapons at 8. And they got the Giants at 2, which feels like they're putting a lot of confidence in Saquon Barkley. So just wanted to see what you guys' thoughts were on that. And then another question is, with North Turner, do we think our offense is going to speed up pace? Last year, we were the slowest paced offense in the NFL. So just kind of curious if they're going to pick it up. We've got a lot of youth in the weapons that we have. So we've gotten younger in that sense. And then Cam does well with faster paced offense. So I know Ron Rivera doesn't like it, but with the additional speed and youth and new offensive coordinator, I was kind of curious what you guys thought about that. Anyway, you guys have a good show and keep pounding.
Oh, man, 2 calls tonight so far. 2 great calls. Waldo, I think that's the first call that first call. Man, way to stomp onto the show, dude. Great. All right, so go to the first one with the rankings of the offensive weapons. My take on this, guys, is that these are kind of paper rankings. Mm-hmm. And that is what really makes the list is what looks good on paper, as in for younger players, it's combine. You know, I mean, if you think about, look at like Odell is he's the number 1 receiver when he's healthy and out there in the league, probably. Maybe top 3 easy. But then you got the number 1 pick is like on paper, they really pop. They pop off the paper. You know, I mean, you think of Tampa Bay and you see Mike Evans pop off the paper a little bit. I don't think, though, the problem, and this is where he is really probably right in all of it, is you know who our pop off the paper is? And he just doesn't pop off the paper anymore like he should, and that's Cam Newton. You know what I'm saying? Like, is that our offense is better than your offense because we got Cam Newton? That's what I've been trying. And not really like on a statistical basis, but he's every bit as much of an offensive threat as Odell Beckham Jr. is.
Mm-hmm.
Like pick your number 1 offensive threat in the league. I'll take Cam.
More because he has the ball in his hands more.
Exactly.
Yeah. And you know, again, I know I sound like a broken record. I feel like I say the same things all the time, man. But I want every aspect of our team to be slept on. I want our offense.
Agreed, 100%.
I want our offense to be ranked dead last.
I want our defense mad as hell.
Even Pro Football Focus, which is supposed to be this big numbers organization, they ranked our pass rush as like number 23 going into the year. And it's like, dude, come on, man. And it's like, you know, I love it, man. Listen, I'll never ice up any of these people. I'll never do that because I want the chip on our shoulders players. I also want them to know that the Panthers have never had back-to-back winning seasons. And in the year where no one is picking you, this is the year you can shut everyone up, dude. And I mean everyone. So that's my mindset going into I could not care less about how they rank us.
They need to rank us 27th.
Rank us 33rd. Who cares?
Yeah, because you're right about this. You know what? It's one thing you want the whole team playing with a chip on your shoulder, but imagine when you get players who never had to play with a chip on their shoulder get a chip on their shoulder.
Yeah.
It's kind of like this. It's like if you walk out there and be like, Todd Gurley ain't that good. And it'd be like, what? Nobody in my whole life has ever said that. because that's the thing is that now you done screwed up and you said you gave Julius Peppers a chip on his shoulder, like the thing that he needed if you're the opponent, that's the last thing you needed was Julius Peppers with a chip on his shoulder. Be like, damn it, you will never retire.
And how are you going to doubt Julius Peppers? They said he wasn't going to be as good as he was in his prime last year. And look at what he did, man. Like, please, add more fuel to the fire. We accept all of it, dude.
Yeah, I agree. Good players with good chips, big chips on their shoulder equals big things for Carolina. All right. Last call. I think it's the last call.
What's up? Your boy J-Dub.
J-Dub?
There's not a whole lot to talk about other than pure like speculatory stuff about the Panthers this season, in my opinion. So I decided to share a little story with you about being a Panthers fan in the Midwest. I remember in 2015, we had just beat Dallas on Thanksgiving in front of everybody after everyone said Roma coming back and we couldn't do it. Anyway, I was super excited.
We spanked them
because I heard that Sports Illustrated had Cam on the cover. And as most of y'all know, Sports Illustrated stuff's like at least a week behind because of publication and so forth.
Right.
So the article was based after Week 10 win against the Redskins. But big, huge story. Cam's on the cover. We're 10-0. And so I'm super excited. I hear about it. I'm like, oh, man, I'm going to go get one right now.
Like it's like put it in the plastic type
go to
excited.
The magazine section. And at first, I think my eyes are just like messing up or they got the wrong, like last week. The Iowa Hawkeyes are on the front.
It's like the Iowa Sports Illustrated.
Only in our region, the Iowa Hawkeyes were on it for a separate story that involved them and the Gators and the Tar Heels at the time.
Oh, it was the Iowa version.
Cover.
You should have sent us a message. We would have mailed you one.
And that's just like one of the many stories. Other ones like, Dish Network saying that the Panthers will be on, and then all of a sudden some other team gets put in because they're closer to the Midwest and the region was wrong. Like, I found websites now that show you which region shows which, but thankfully to my friend, he has the NFL ticket. I don't have to deal with that no more, but it's just some of the pains, not only that, but getting ragged all the time. I kind of love that, though. I don't mind being the underdog around all these Packers and Bears and everyone else famous, but I just figured I'd share a little story since it's kind of well for Panther news. And, I love y'all. Keep on.
All right. So thanks, J-Dub. You're the best, bro. You guys can have your voice heard on the C3 Cat Calls line, and the number is 252-228-5098. We had some great calls tonight. Actually, you know what, Joey? I think we got one more that came in the pipe because you said call now.
All right.
So what we got
I was
here?
hoping someone would. That worked out.
I knew I'm calling tonight or whatever. I'm not sure if I'll have a chance to be on the show tonight, but this is your boy, the Black Cat, Brandon Herbert, and this time I usually give off my opinion and everything, and I'm going to kind of do that right now, but I want your opinion on it as well. I actually watched the playoff game with the Saints and everything again for like the fourth time. And me personally, I think that without question, that was Cam Newton's best game of his career. I saw two passes that were off the mark that you can say that it was kind of his fault. He was the most accurate in that, and I'm hoping it carries over to the next season. Now, and I know, Tony, this might be difficult for you and everything like that.
Okay. Probably going to tell me how Phillip Rivers is the best quarterback, second to Cam Newton.
Has been given excuses now, and maybe they're valid excuses, but he's been given excuses about, not having enough weapons and everything like that. This time, I believe that you can't give him that excuse. He has weapons now. He has dynamic weapons of all shapes and sizes. And I believe that, in my view, I believe that this is a make it or break it year. Not necessarily saying we're going to get rid of Cam, but
he's Brian North, dude.
MVP level. Is he closer to that, or is he closer to last year's level? And I mean, just tell me what you think, guys. I personally think that this is going to show us what Cam Newton really is made of this year with the new scheme and everything like that. So, like I said, just tell me what you think about that. And I also want to say is I watched that game very closely, and James Bradbury, he needs some work. He got key reasons. He gave up the long touchdown.
Mm-hmm.
Michael Thomas was eating him for lunch all day that day. And could have been a bad game, but not a huge James Bradbury fan, as you know. But, yeah. Anyway, just tell me what you think. Great job tonight. I'm probably going to be on. I'm about to jump on now and listen to you guys. So, peace out.
All right, perfect, man. Thanks, Black Cat, for that call. You know I will defend Cam Newton to the death. You already knew that, so there's even no need to really not talk. Well, we will talk about it, but Bradbury, you know, you just got to wonder with him does a new defensive coordinator give him kind of a little break, and that is maybe we shift the focus to, like Cody has said so many times, how the scheme didn't help the linebackers. Maybe it didn't help Bradbury either last year.
Yeah, I mean, when you're always focusing on the blitz, your receivers, you know, if they're good receivers, they know that the blitz is coming, and they're doing their quarterbacks favors, and they're hitting their routes earlier than they would have. One shout out to Brandon, man. He's in the chat room. It feels like almost every Sunday, man.
Yeah, he's good.
Day, dude.
Good dude. And I want to put out this with Bradbury. You know, part of the problem with Bradbury, and I think the reason his criticism is important and necessary, Brandon Herbert, but also at the same time, like, I don't want to be too concerned about it, is that the reason the criticism is there is because he was the inflated, you know, they like everybody ordained him, it seemed like, so quickly as like this, like, gonna be a great player, this pick that Dave Gettleman just nailed, great rookie season, like all things are pointing in the right way. It just seemed like, good gosh, maybe you ordained him a little too quickly, and not ordained him, but like, hey, is that like the guy is also a second-year player, third-year player now. He's going to be a third-year player. So, and it shows at times, right? And the question is, what does he do this year, right? You know, does he trend up or trend down or flatline there? The other question goes back to Cam. Is that, yeah, I guess, but you know, what do you guys think? Because I think Cam's already proven it, even with it. Like, but is that like, do we think that the offense could be better? I don't think it's like, also you look at it and you're like, oh my God. I mean, because Greg Olson is aging, you know, there's a lot of questions at the on the offensive line, and we picked DJ Moore high, but he hasn't played a play yet.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's like, I mean, I don't think it's fair to say just because all of our draft picks are going to be healthy, maybe that like he's got weapons. We don't even know. Curtis Samuel, like these guys, half of them. Devin Funch is the most experienced player out there.
You know, last Tuesday, you mentioned that Brett Coleman video, and I hope everyone still goes watch that. It's about our run attack. But there's something surprising that he mentioned. He says that they need to let Cam Newton play like Tom Brady. Let him have control of the line. Let him audible. Let him change plays. Let Cam Newton work. I mean, and Brandon isn't wrong. Listen, there were 2 games last year against the Saints and the Falcons where Cam threw some passes that was like, man, who are you throwing it to? There's not even a receiver.
Deep ball was off. The deep ball was not there last year.
Yeah, and he also had the shoulder problem, that's why I understand that there's a rift of people saying, oh, you're making excuses for the man.
Right.
But then there's also some legitimate ones. I genuinely believe that it's all going to fall on North Turner and how much, one, he's going to change the play calling for the better and switch it up. And two, how much he lets Cam just be Cam Newton and be the best player on the field and not put shackles on him and constrain the way that he plays and try and make him into someone that he isn't.
Joey, what are the Colin Cowherds going to say if North Turner becomes gets us like a top offense in the league and Cam Newton looks fantastic and that isn't just a 1-year thing? Say it's like a 3-year run at the best offense, top 5 offense in the NFL. What are they going to say about Cam then?
They'll say it wasn't Cam, that it was the talent around him.
It took a genius like North Turner to find out how to actually use it. Whatever.
Right.
Yeah, I don't even know how I would take it. Like, I'm kind of like, I want it. I mean, obviously, I'm going to be very happy if that happens. But imagine that. Imagine if, like, all of a sudden, it wasn't like, oh, Cam Newton's just shouldering this team. What if it's like Cam Newton is the greatest player ever? Which he is in my mind already. But there is an opportunity. The offense could all of a sudden just be explosive in a heartbeat.
In 2015, they were saying that Cam Newton was an NFL equivalent of LeBron James, man. And he's such a physical monster. He can do everything that you want him to do. The consistency has been up and down, but we talk about it being a pretty big year coming up for Devin Funchess. It's a big year for everyone, man. Cam Newton has 2 years left before they have to pay him again, and you want all the money in the world. It just it depends on how you're going to change up our blocking. Do our receivers finally help him out and do their job and make a few feet of separation every once in a while? It depends on a lot, man. But Cam being healthy at this time this year, dude, he's on Instagram every day just showing off, man. I love it.
He ain't in the rehab room.
I have not felt this confident about Cam Newton going into a season since maybe ever, man. I mean,
all we need is Christian McCaffrey or DJ Moore to be like a Kareem Hunt year, like or an Alvin Kamara year. Like, we just need, if we have one player that just for a year or two just goes off, that you could go I feel like when you say LeBron James, you're also like with Cam, you're always like maybe so much closer to having a top 5 or top 3 offense than you ever thought you really were the year before. One player on a hot streak, Christian McCaffrey, all of a sudden shows what you wanted him to, what guys were showing in their rookie year. He does that next year. And Cam Newton all of a sudden in this offense is unstoppable. Or it could just be more Cam Newton having to do everything. But I don't think it's that.
We all consider. Yeah, go ahead.
We got way better at some important positions, and I think that's going to show.
I agree.
We all consider Ben Roethlisberger a top 5 quarterback in the NFL. Look at all the weapons around him.
Yeah.
Antonio Brown, Le'Veon Bell, Juju Smith, awesome offensive line. It matters, man. It really matters when you have pieces around a player.
Agree.
Yep. All right, guys, that's C3 Podcast. We're going to jump in here and do our Ice Up picks. We appreciate all the calls. The number's 252-228-1598. Really strong night of cat calls tonight. Every call was great. Thanks to Waldo. Thanks to J-Dub. Thanks to Brandon. And who started us off? G. Cavassier. Thank you, guys. We appreciate it. We appreciate everybody in the chat room. While you're here, why don't you go ahead and smash that thumbs up button on YouTube, or take this link and share it with a friend. Throw it on Facebook. Send it an email to one friend and tell them this is the Panthers podcast that goes every week talking about the latest Panthers news and opinions from the fan perspective, a place where you can sound off on that conversation. Guys, we're going to final pick, right, or our final segment goes to still The night that I go, I'm going to be out of here by 9:45. It's 10:25. We're starting the ice up picks. And it turns out, you know what the problem is? We just like talking about the Panthers and football. That's the problem. That's why this show doesn't go short. Ice up picks where we tell somebody to ice up, to toughen up, to get it together. Joe's Riolano, what you got for us tonight?
All right, this is pretty low hanging fruit, pretty simple. Icing up President Trump because I really feel like he dropped the ball in that interview with Putin, or that summit with Putin. We don't know what went on in the back room when they were there by themselves talking.
Probably like hookers and strippers.
I just don't think he was. I don't think he was strong enough or firm enough. He didn't put up a staunch enough front. And, you know, he kind of called out his own clandestine services and, you know, kind of basically called them out and called them punks, and that he thought they were a bunch of liars. So I think that's bad. That's really bad. And it makes us look bad as a country, like we don't have our stuff together. So Trump, I know since he had gone back and sort of that he misspoke about that stuff, which he didn't misspeak. He just realized he did something dumb now. So anyway, ice up, Trump. Get it together, baby.
Ice up. What you got for us, Cody?
So, yeah, real quick, Joe. It's funny. I thought about you when that all happened, when that all went down. I actually was wondering about your opinion on all that stuff. So I'm glad you brought it up, buddy. But mine's a whole bunch of stupid. So I hope you're ready. Yeah. So yeah, there's no other way to say it, but then to just say it. Like all great stories, this comes out of Florida, and Florida man, Florida. No, hold on to your seats, boys.
Okay.
Florida man bites off brother's penis.
Oh my god!
In defense of favorite Dragon Ball Z blanket. Now, by the way, you might be asking yourself, now what has to happen to a Dragon Ball Z blanket for a man to decide, you know what? I'm gonna bite my brother's wee off, dude. and I kid you not, this man walked in on his brother having sex with his cousin on his favorite Dragon Ball Z blanket, dude. His mugshot. He still has the dried blood on his face from where he bit his brother's dick off, dude. Listen, man.
I can't even believe I'm hearing this.
I know. Hey, I warned you. A whole bunch of stupid. Okay, a whole bunch of stupid. And yeah, man, I'm gonna ice up that brother because you just don't have sex on a Dragon Ball Z blanket, man. He deserved it. What can I say? Ice up, son.
With his cousin.
Yeah, with this cousin.
Of course.
Oh gosh. All right. I don't know what I was gonna.
Follow that up, Tony.
I don't know. That's a good question. That's a great question. I'm gonna ice up. All right, here is that I've been trying to avoid political, right? But I'm gonna ice up stupid. And that is for I've been vacillating myself personally between.
Well, keep it to yourself.
Right, exactly. That is a word, right? Vacillate to switch back and forth. Right? As I've been trying to like how much I care like about any of this, because like caring about things that are ridiculous and stupid and out of your control is a personal health problem. Like, you know, it makes me nervous, makes me anxiety, all these things. But then I've also been reading some things where it's like, hey, you have to care, even though, like, if we don't care, this is when things happen, right? So sometimes I feel like I'm just shouting into the abyss. But the problem that I'm getting to is that, like, I feel like our leaders are dumb. And this is not directed at Donald Trump.
Right.
This is directed. Yeah, this is directed at the thing with the FBI agent that they got all, that they had that big show where the House Oversight Committee.
Yeah.
Now, I don't want to talk anything about the agent, what he did, what his text, none of that. It's just the fact that you look like giant babies. Like, you're like, did you look at your wife that way after you lied to her about screwing around on her? Like, they are, it's so immature in many ways that and then I look on another side and I hear these stories about the Sacha Cohen guy, like, duping.
Oh, yeah.
And, like, I will say this is that, like, I respect how some people can see his comedy as funny because it's outrageous. It's too far out there for me to watch and really truly enjoy. You know what I'm saying? It's just too far for me to just be enjoyable. I could see how, though, it's like crazy. But the idea that he's tricking he's tricked supposedly a standing congressman into endorsing his program where they're going to arm kindergartners, the kindergarten program. And like, he actually, so what I just have learned, it goes back to the Facebook, like, is either we have elected idiots or we are the idiots, or maybe it turns out it's both. But I'm going to say this, ice up. Good gosh, kindergarten.
It has to be both. And by the way, he didn't just get one of them. He got like
7 of them.
Yeah, he got like 5 or 6 different senators to endorse kindergartens, dude.
He got another one. What was it? He said something. He got another one, this guy, to do something really ridiculous. And it was like, how does he do it with a straight face? I don't get it. What a jerk.
I love Sasha, by the way. So I guess it's different strokes for different folks.
It's not that, it's fun, but it's just out there. But anyway, that's my ice up pick, guys. This is the C3 Panthers podcast, brought to you by CarolinaCatChronicles.com, where every Tuesday night we chop up the latest Panthers news and opinions from the fan perspective. We talk about a little bit more sometimes, and we go on because we love it. We love just talking about just talking football and hanging out with you guys. Joe, tell them how they can reach you until next Tuesday on Twitter.
Guys, you can reach me on Twitter at Joe Milano, and we can talk football, college football, baseball, or cars. You got some good car picks, send them my way.
Right on. Cody Lashney, how can they hit you up?
Cody Lack on Twitter. Yeah, much of the same that Joe said, man. I feel like I BS about Clemson football more on Twitter than I do Panthers. But hey, man, anytime you want to hit me up, you can DM me, dude. I'm approachable. It's whatever, man. Come chill with us.
All right, Tony Dunn here. You can reach me at cat_chronicles. The website's CarolinaCatChronicles.com. The show is the C3 Panthers podcast, and we'll check you out next Tuesday night.